So up to now on this channel, I've talked about shows I liked, found entertaining, and would recommend to friends. But it's time now to talk about a show I absolutely loved, a show I was obsessed with and watched on a loop. Of course, that show was Saved by the Bell. I used to run home and watch it every day after school. I couldn't get enough of it, and heck, I even read the books. For the two of you watching who don't know what Saved by the Bell was, it was an early 90s teen or tween sitcom that starred Mark Paul as Zack Morris, the charming schemer who famously broke the fourth wall with his timeout ability, the late Dustin Diamond as Screech Powers, eccentric, lovable nerd, and Mario Lopez as Slater, the jock with a sensitive side. Jessie Spano, the all dancing feminist played by Elizabeth Berkley, Fashionista Lisa, played by Lark Voorhees, and of course Tiffany Amber as every millennial's first crush, Kelly Kapowski. It was zany, it was goofy, it was silly, and it was awesome. It remains today a cultural time capsule of the early 90s, set in the neon soaked halls of Bayside High, and the cast played more or less their own age. Just FYI, Mario Lopez is 17 here, and he's now 52. Just goes to show you that God loves more of us than others. The show was highly successful and perfected the teen assembly formula. While outdated now in both storylines and production, led the way for other teen and tween shows like iCarly, Zoe 101, and of course, Victorious. As a young, impressionable 11-year-old, it was possibly my first glimpses in at American culture and led me to believe that that is what high school and the States were really like. Boy, was I wrong. 30 years later, I still haven't rigged a test or sold a swimsuit calendar, and I'm still waiting for my check for the pasta sauce. But I did seek out caffeine tablets. But I'm not here to talk about Saved by the Bell, or at least its original run. No, I want to talk about its 1993 spin off or continuation, depending on how you want to look at it, Saved by the Bell, The College Years. After the original success of Saved by the Bell, it was decided that more money could still be made, and two spin offs were produced. Saved by the Bell, The New Class, which continued the story at Bayside High with different students. I made it 4 episodes into this before realizing, as a 13-year-old, there was better things to be doing with my life. And Saved by the Bell, The College Years, which was the better thing I could be doing. Saved by the Bell, The College Years premiered in May 1993 with a pilot following our three boys from Bayside High to the fictional UCLA. There, they are introduced to their three roommates, Leslie, Alex, and Danielle. Don't get too attached to her. Can I just pause to comment on the dorm room apartment? We don't have dorm rooms here, but from what I can gather from TV, most are just bedrooms. This is a living room, a kitchen, with an attached bathroom that we never see. We are also introduced to Mike Rogers, the dorm manager and the Mr. Belding of this series. The first episode is very much in keeping with the original series, somewhat daft and keeping the dork jock stereotypes. However, this was later dropped, with the obvious exception of Screech. One of the most appealing aspects of the college years is how naturally it evolves with the audience. Viewers who grew up watching the original series were also entering a new stage of life, making the college backdrop especially relatable. The college years aired in prime time as opposed to Saturday mornings, and was trying to appeal to a slightly older audience. It is more keeping with family sitcoms, the likes of Full House or The Nanny, as opposed to later children's sitcoms like Drake and Josh. The pilot's main story is Zack trying to throw a party for Leslie, who he has set his sights on. However, this goes against the dorm's rules. It also deals with the expectations of college and the challenges it brings, with Slater feeling pressure regarding wrestling and contemplating dropping out, only later, of course, to change his mind. The pilot is strange and doesn't feel all together. There is something missing. Well, music for one.
What's going on here? Well, I could be wrong, but it looks like your birthday party.
Leslie, happy birthday.
But in the second episode, things get better with the return of Kelly. And with 4 of the original cast back, the show settles in, as we're introduced to the main conflict of the series, a love triangle between Zack, Kelly, and Leslie. However, in episode 3, the triangle becomes a square, as we're introduced to Professor Lasky, and all 3 of our female leads fall in love.
Will you, and you marry me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
However, it is Kelly who later in the series starts dating the professor, continuing her interest in older men with authority. Kelly in the series is portrayed more sexually, or at least less inhibited, than in the original show. While it may not be a shock that a primetime sitcom will portray its freshman college cast more sexually than a Saturday morning kids show, the original could be racy when it wanted to, and Tiffany Amber Thiessen became a sex symbol of the 90s. However, we also see her maturing in a more positive way, with her career, expressing the desire to become a doctor and working in the college medical clinic. We also see the stress this can bring on balancing both work and college. As the series progresses, Zack admits his true feelings for Kelly, that she was the only one for him, the only one he ever really loved, thus ending the plot with Leslie, and really her as a character. Leslie becomes less involved in storylines as the show goes on. She is there, she is a roommate, but she has little other function or involved in many of the plots. We also see growth in Slater's character. In one episode, we see him exploring his ethnic identity and becoming more political. While this is just a one-off episode, and one could argue is very superficial early 90s identity politics, the issue of race and heritage is handled here way better than it is in past episodes of Saved by the Bell.
By the way, can you finish clearing this table?
Why should I clean your table?
Because you're a busboy.
I'm not a busboy, I'm an oppressed minority.
Screech is Screech. While he could not be changed too much, the writers did try to give him more depth. The location changed from high school to college, a place where it is less socially acceptable to bully someone for being smart, did help. In the first episode, you see him being approached by a girl, and later hanging out with Leslie and Alex. In another notable episode, he ends up stealing a girl from Zack, in what is one of Screech's best storylines, both from the original series and the college years. That is not to say that he is completely matured up, or isn't the butt of some of the jokes later on, but he's an improvement. Just a pity what happened to him in the new class. The other main new character was Mike Rogers, played by former NFL star Bob Golick. While obviously meant to be a replacement for Belding, he is a departure from the goofy, high-strung principal. Unlike Belding, who often felt like he was trying too hard to be one of the guys, Mike was comfortable in his authority. He wasn't afraid to shut down a party or assign work detail, but he also had a heart of gold. Despite his tough exterior, the show often played with the contrast of his size and his sensitive nature. In one episode, he bonds with a laboratory mouse, and in another, he reveals his own insecurities regarding women and dating. As the series goes on, his character, the role of the adult in the room, is replaced by Dean Susan McMahon, played by Holland Taylor, who you probably know from 2.5 Men, and she plays a similar role here. She's much stricter than Mike, acting more as an antagonist to her young adults. The episodes, while not as over top as the original series, no one is getting the gift of seeing the future after being hit by lightning, or tricking the CIA into thinking that Screech was an alien, were fun, with a lot more continuity than the original series. Of course, it's easy to have continuity when there is only one season. I want to showcase 2 episodes in particular that I believe highlight the series. The first I touched on before, and is episode 8, called Screech Love. In this episode, Zack starts dating in-world famous tennis player Linda Annington, played by Hilary Danair. However, she needs a tutor, so Zack decides to get Screech to help her. But the two start bonding over the cosmos, and Screech develops feelings for her. His feelings are not completely rebuffed, and Linda cancels plans with Zack to study with Screech. Zack doesn't understand why someone would want to study or spend time with Screech instead of him, so confronts Screech about it.
You know, if this was someone other than you, I might get the feeling you were trying to horn in on my girlfriend.
What do you mean if it was someone other than me?
Screech, relax, buddy. I know there's nothing between you and Linda.
Well, for your information, Zach, there is something between me and Linda. I really like her, and I think she likes me.
Oh, get real, Screech. You're way out of your league, buddy.
Zack, seeing how he's insulted his friend, hurt his feelings, and is generally a jerk, apologizes. And in the end, Linda dumps Zack and starts dating Screech. However, as is tradition with Zack's exes, we never see her again. Another of my favourite episodes was number 10, where Zack insults Kelly after she tells him she wants to be a doctor, basically saying that she isn't smart enough. As a result, she quits her job in the clinic and starts working in a Hooters-style bar near the campus. Zack, when learning that she has given up on her dreams, feels guilty and tries to persuade her to go back to the clinic and follow her dreams. When she says no, he tells her that she got an A on a science exam and that she shouldn't listen to jerks like him. And then we get this scene.
Come on, I'll walk you to class. What have we got?
Chemistry.
We sure do.
What I like about these two episodes is that we see Zack growing as a person. He is a character who is often criticized, even by fans of the show, for being a bit of a jerk or being a bad friend. We see this in the web series Zack Morris's Trash, but I've never really liked his take, as I find it slightly ridiculous. It shows that people don't really understand his character or his archetype. And B, Zack does learn from his mistakes and can be a better person and friend. We see his growth throughout the college years, particularly towards Kelly, as the relationship blooms, and we move towards its conclusion and finale. As mentioned before, Kelly starts dating her professor, but begins to realize that he isn't the right man for her. He is somewhat embarrassed by the relationship and wants to keep it hush-hush. On realizing this, she decides Zack is the man for her, and always has been.
I'm so stupid to have fallen in love with you.
Okay. Why do you feel this way?
Why do I feel this way? Isn't it obvious? I mean, Zack is willing to go through anything for me and you. Well, we both know what you're willing to do for me, nothing.
The two start dating again, but soon afterwards, Kelly gets offered a chance to study abroad and decides to take the opportunity. Zack, now wanting to lose Kelly, proposes to her, and she says yes, forgoing her trip and beginning a new life with Zack. The next and final episode of the college years focuses on the two trying to tell people this, with many, including the parents, not approving of them getting married at such a young age. But in the end, our lovebirds say screw it, and they'll love to Vegas. And with a final cameo by Lark Voorhees as Lisa Turtle, we end Saved by the Bell the college years. The show was cancelled. It didn't do well both with critics or with ratings, and sits at a measly 9% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. However, I believe it had potential. Fans look back at it fondly, and it does have an 80% audience score. Peter Ingle, the creator, said that he should have brought back the 6 original characters. I'm not 100% certain this would have worked. I don't think seeing Slater and Jesse bickering again, or Screech pining over Lisa, would have improved matters. They attempted this a little bit with Alex and Slater, but it didn't quite work. But Leslie, as I said, mostly faded out towards the end. She wasn't even invited to the wedding. There was a TV movie to sign up the season called Wedding in Las Vegas, where we see Zack and Kelly walk down the aisle and live the rest of their lives in perfect happiness. I, of course, taped this TV movie and watched this scene over and over again. But for me, this was the end of Saved by the Bell. The actors obviously went on to do different things. Kelly went to Beverly Hills and Zack to NYC. Slater became a TV presenter. And well, Jessie Spano from the original series, she also did a movie. While the Saved by the Bell universe continued for another 7 years in the form of a new class, it will not be until 2015 on the Jimmy Fallon show that we would see a reunion of sorts as 5 of the original cast, including Belding, reunited. Then in 2020, we saw a full reboot, set in Bayside, where Jesse and Slater are teachers and Zack and Kelly's son, Mac, attends. The series was fun, with enough callbacks to keep me happy.
Besides, new kids keep things fresh. Remember Tori?
Who?
But like so many of these nostalgic reboots, it only lasted 2 seasons before being cancelled. And with that, one has to assume the Bayside gang is no more. The series expanding 5 decades is gone. But for people of a certain age, the gang lives on, and I hope one day to see the 5 of them on screen again. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you give it a like, and I will see you next time.